All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Center for Rural Affairs Rural Report. My name is Justin Carter. I'm a senior project associate at the center, and I coordinate all of our work in farm to school throughout the state of Nebraska. So today we want to talk to you a little bit about what's happening around farm to school and specifically farm to school month, which is coming up in October. And I want to introduce our guest today, Sarah Smith. Sarah is with the Nebraska Department of Education. So thanks for joining us, Sarah.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Justin.
Yeah, would you like to introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about your job?
Sure, yeah. So I work at the Nebraska Department of Education, like you said, and my title there is Farm to School Specialist. So I'm in the larger office of Coordinated Student Support Services. And so we really look at the whole child and how we can grow educational opportunities at every level for kids in school here in Nebraska. And so, yeah, my position really came into being last year with the Nebraska Farm to School Act that brought some state funding for farm to school efforts to coordinate statewide. And so I work really hard to grow a network for farm to school in Nebraska and build partnerships and get to know what's needed across the state and what we have to work with. And so that's been a position that was put in place last year. So we are busy growing farm to school.
Awesome. Thanks, Sarah. Well, we appreciate all you're doing, and we always appreciate the great partner that Nebraska Department of Education has been on these projects. So before we get started in talking about some of the activities, the events happening around the state, I just wanted to take a little bit of time to explain what is farm to school. It's a term that we've been hearing a lot, new programs popping up in districts all around Nebraska. So farm to school is defined as a way for students to gain access to healthy local foods as well as educational opportunities such as school gardens, cooking lessons, or farm field trips. It empowers children and their families to make informed food choices while strengthening the local economy and contributing to vibrant communities. And of course, we see farm to school activities taking place in local food procurement, getting food directly from farmers in our communities into the cafeteria, and also those agriculture education programs that we see all throughout Nebraska, things like the greenhouse programs, FFA, and other outdoor education and school gardening programs that are getting more creative and unique every day. All right, well, let's get into Farm to School Month. So Sarah, could you tell us a little bit about Farm to School Month, when it is, why it's happening, why we do it?
Yeah, I would love to. Yeah, Farm to School Month, we celebrate it in October. It's actually a national effort, and it's been organized by the National Farm to School Network. And so they have a great resource hub there at farmtoschool.org, and I highly recommend it. But they do offer several resources for promotion and communication about the month. But it's a really good opportunity to just take a step into farm to school efforts and activities at a school level. And so just like the activities that you mentioned, like the farm tours or taste testing local foods or going through a school greenhouse, bringing a farmer in to talk about what they grow or to celebrate the food they might have provided to that school meal that month. Those are all opportunities that can really be pushed out in the month of October on a national level. And if a school hasn't done something yet for Farm to School, if they could commit to something in October, then they're sort of rallying around the efforts on a national level and on a statewide level. And so we like to celebrate Farm to School at that, in the fall. Harvest is typically still fairly bountiful, moving into the fall. And school's underway and in session, and it's a good time to make some plans and to do something that engages students with farming and agriculture and nutrition.
Yeah, and there's also a really big event during the month of October for Farm to School Month, the Crunch Off. And yeah, Nebraska has particularly had success in that in the last few years. Can you tell us a little bit about what the Crunch Off is?
I can, yeah. So the Crunch Off is where really the theme is local produce. That's raw and fresh, and it can be crunched like apples are, a giant favorite. They're very crunchy. And the idea is if everyone's crunching on an apple or a carrot or a salad turnip or lettuce, something that is fresh, it's an opportunity for kids to see their peers doing it and to learn where the product came from, learn about seasonality in our state, to know what's grown locally, and to all crunch kind of at the same time, almost like you could hear the giant crunch if everybody did crunch at the same time. And so, yeah, districts across the state are picking this up, and childcare centers, large districts, rural districts. The schools are gathering in gyms to crunch at the same time. During COVID, and even still now, there will be virtual events where even the Department of Education, we will be crunching on October 3rd as a full staff with some FFA students and ag educators coming in to do the crunch off with us, because there are ag educators in our state that are taking the lead with this. And just there's some really interesting and innovative products for them to be crunching onto that maybe they're growing on school grounds or a producer in their county or a town has provided. So we have several resources on our website, flyers and coloring sheets and engagement tools for schools to engage with producers or to challenge another school. And we are very invested in it because we have won 3 years in a row within our Mountain Plains region. So we're one of 8 states that competes. And per capita, we've had the most crunches 3 years in a row. So we're really hoping we can keep it going a 4th year. And it's open to families, institutions, businesses. We, of course, at the Department of Education are pushing it out with childcare in schools, but the University of Nebraska Dining Services has participated before, for example. So it's a good opportunity to have something fun happening, to celebrate and rally around like a fun thing and delicious thing.
Yes, yeah, I agree. It's a great point of entry event for farm to school, and it's really awesome to see how it has grown over the past few years. Yeah, more and more schools getting involved, and then of course Nebraska having that success, winning amongst all those states in our region. And then, not sure if we covered it, but if schools want to sign up for the Crunch Off, how do they do that?
Yeah, I'm really glad you said that, because we do want schools to register so that we're counted. So on the NDE website, we have a farm to school web pages, and one of them is for the Crunch Off, and that's where the registration link is.
Okay, great. And then yeah, going back to getting the resources for it too, I just wanted to mention that if schools need any help finding the local foods to crunch into, feel free to contact the center. We can often put you in touch with farmers who have those products like apples, carrots. What are some of the other innovative vegetables that the schools have used?
Well, my favorite one from last year was an FFA program that had pumpkins. And so they hollowed up, they carved out the pumpkins and then had all the seeds left over. And so they roasted those seeds and then shared them with like the elementary school students. So, I mean, even pumpkin seeds can be crunchy.
Yes, that's crazy cool. All right. All right, well, moving a little bit away from the Crunch Off, let's talk a little bit about other farm to school programs in Nebraska that schools can get involved in. I know we have programs like Harvest of the Month and Nebraska Thursdays. Sarah, could you talk a little bit about these?
Yeah. So Nebraska Thursdays is a program that's really focused on the full tray. So with school meals, they're required to offer different components like fruit and different types of vegetables, grain, dairy, meat or meat alternate. And so it's really looking at that whole plate and trying to get as much local on it as possible and celebrating it on Thursdays throughout the school year or the summer. It could be any time of the year where they're offering local food on the plate. And so we don't regulate any definition of local necessarily, because every district might be different in what might be found locally. But we do see quite a bit of like local beef right now. We're seeing a lot of local on fruit and vegetable bars. And so it's celebrating. And even if you look at if a school can look at what they're already ordering, they might be surprised at what they are getting locally, even through their typical distributor. So and using that to then grow the program and put some goals in place for what they might want to do to increase the percentage of local on their plate for Nebraska Thursdays. So maybe they can only source one thing or just one thing in like a more difficult part of a non-growing season or something like that. And that's fine, still celebrating Nebraska Thursdays with whatever local is there, but with aims to grow that and just see this economic opportunity and engagement with community and culture to grow as time goes on. So that's Nebraska Thursdays. And with Harvest of the Month, that's a program where we're featuring foods on a seasonal basis. And so each month we have a different product that we feature. And we're seeing this program a lot more interest grow in like the early childcare realm, because you've got this opportunity to use the resources that include taste testing and some trivia questions and some curriculum and that kind of thing. And we're also seeing it in after school programming as well as K through 12. So there's tons of interest in this, and we're growing it and expanding it right now to include Indigenous foods and partnering with the Center for Rural Affairs on that, which is wonderful. So we're expanding the palette to include bison and the Three Sisters. So we'll have summer and winter squash and dry beans and different types of native corn, and honing in on cultural relevancy and food sovereignty efforts, and intertwining that into the curriculum that we already have. And also expanding, we're partnering with Buy Fresh, Buy Local Nebraska to expand the summer products, so that those programs that want to do hands-on demoing or featuring school garden things that might be growing in the summer, and they might have summer programming through their summer food service program, that they then have materials and resources for that high growing time when all of that fresh produce is in season. So we are expanding all of those materials now. So within the next year, like you check the website, those updates will be available, but all of those materials are free to download off of our website.
That's great to know. That's so many resources available for schools, and so great to hear the opportunities for schools to bring sort of new foods that students may never have tried before into the cafeteria, and then educate them on where that food has come from. Yeah, and to get into that educational piece a little bit, I did want to mention that the Center for Rural Affairs, we have some programs coming up too. So in 2019, the center had a program called Greenhouse to Cafeteria, where we assisted some rural schools across the state in getting their greenhouse programs up and going, so they could grow different food products to potentially take to their school salad bars, take to the school cafeterias. And we're continuing to assist agriculture educators with technical advising, whatever we can give them to make their program successful. And one unique program that we are continuing to do is the Greenhouse to Cafeteria Award. In 2021, we had the opportunity to award one exemplary greenhouse from the state that was demonstrating student leadership in the greenhouse, getting food into the cafeteria, collaborating with our community. And that year we were able to award Nebraska Christian schools. And actually, this is their greenhouse behind me, if anyone was wondering about the photo. But we are going to release the award again it'll be for 2023. So stay tuned for applications. Those should be coming out at the end of September. And then I think another thing that we could talk briefly about, Sarah, is our farm to school producer trainings that we've been doing over the past year, and we have a new one coming up too.
Yeah, these are exciting. We were funded through USDA farm to school grant funding to offer these producer trainings, and the curriculum was designed by the National Center for Appropriate Technology and the National Farm to School Network in cooperation with USDA. And so it's a national effort as well. And so it's called Bringing the Farm to School. And our first one that we offered was in Omaha, and it's a very in-depth training where we're really looking at how to make sales for producers to make sales into the school market, and just the opportunities to do so and what types of products schools will be looking for, what their procurement process might be, talking about the processing of different foods and the distribution chain, food safety concerns. So it really runs the full gamut. We bring in lots of experts and experience and panelists. So I'm really excited for this upcoming one that'll be happening in October in partnership with the Winnebago Food Sovereignty Council. And this one really is targeted to tribal producers. We'll have this training over the course of 2 days, and it'll be held at Winnebago's Casino and Resort in Sloan, Iowa. But yeah, we're still finalizing the speakers that will be there, but it'll be an opportunity to be in person is really nice after so many things have been virtual. But for us to interact and also listen to the work that's happening on the ground and what producers are needing to learn. So while we're partnering with the Winnebago Food Sovereignty Council, our training team and facilitation team comes from the Center for Rural Affairs and Nebraska Extension, Buy Fresh, Buy Local Nebraska, and No More Empty Pots. So yeah, I'm excited for this one. And that one, the registration link exists on the Nebraska Department of Education Farm to School web pages as well.
Yes. Yeah, and I've been really proud to be able to be a facilitator for this training as well. Very excited for the training in collaboration with the Winnebago Food Sovereignty Council. And we'll put that registration link in the chat for today's Rural Rapport for folks who are interested who come from those tribal communities. All right, so moving forward into some new opportunities that we could expect from Farm to School in the next few years. Sarah, I wanted to talk a little bit about the Farm to School Institute, which is actually the logo is your background today. So the Institute was something that I got to be a part of too, where we brought together several schools from around the state to sort of set up some farm to school action plans on what they wanted to do, whether it was around local food procurement, whether it was around putting in agriculture education things like greenhouses or school gardens and getting food to the cafeteria. And that was a very rewarding project to be a part of. And Sarah, I was wondering if you could just tell us a little bit more of the details about it, how it went, and if we could expect to have another one.
Yeah. So again, this project was also funded by USDA Farm to School grant funds. And so I do want to encourage folks to stay abreast of that opportunity because it's schools are eligible to apply for those funds. Producer groups are, nonprofits, state agencies. So that funding should come out anytime for the next year. But this one we were awarded in 2020 and the Department of Education partnered closely with Nebraska Extension as a statewide farm to school institute, but it's modeled from the northeast of the country from Vermont Feed. And they've been doing this since, they've been doing this since 2012. And they have this model where it's really looking at to sustain farm to school efforts at a local level, you need to really integrate farm to school activity into the classroom, the cafeteria, and the community. And the Institute provides a team atmosphere. So those schools that wanted to participate did have to apply, and they did have to have a diverse interdisciplinary team selected to participate. So there needed to be an administrative voice on that team, a school food service staff member or director, and then a third person. Every single team did have a Nebraska Extension team member. And then there were also farmers that joined the team and parents and school board members and ag education teachers and FCS teachers. So it was really fun. We did need to host hours virtually because it happened during COVID. But we had 8 teams that we could select, and we brought them on for a full week-long series of workshops and training, and gave them time in the afternoons for the teams to work together on developing goals and action plans and work with a coach one-on-one as well. And so they did that, and they were able to see some incremental change throughout their school year based off of the goals that they set. And hopefully they will continue to work off of those action plans and modify them and adjust them and work together as a team to continue building those efforts. Burwell Public Schools was one of the teams at the Institute, and they actually applied for their own USDA Farm to School grant, and they were awarded that this year to do an implementation project. And so they'll be growing Farm to School curriculum. They have a coordinator on board to help with that. So they'll continue with taste testing of local foods and recipes. And yeah, so it just really makes for a localized Farm to School plan and activities to happen based off of the team at the Institute. So hopefully we will be able to offer another one in the next couple of years, gathering some sponsorships and support and work with teams over the course of the full school year.
All right, great. That's good to hear. Okay, well, I think we could start wrapping it up, but before we do, Sarah, are there any other programs that might be coming up or any other topics around Farm to School you'd like to discuss?
You know, I just want to mention that our kind of the next thing we'll be rolling out is partnering with several organizations, including the Center for Rural Affairs, on development of a formalized statewide network. So we'll be moving across the state to have listening sessions and conversations with all of those different sectors that have an interest in Farm to School, whether it's parents, food service, producers, students, administrators, school boards. So having those conversations with those different folks in our state and hearing where they're at with Farm to School, what they're already doing, what their needs are, and developing, like a strategic plan for a structure for the network and mobilizing working groups and action to come from the network and some comprehensive communication plans too. So folks in the state can feel like they're really connected to what's happening and they can learn from each other and have somewhere to go to kind of move forward with what they want to see happen at their schools or their childcare centers.
Awesome. Yes, so valuable to have mentors and resources in this work as schools move forward with this. And I'd just like to remind everybody, if you are ever more interested in getting involved with Farm to School, if you are a school district looking at expanding your programs or building a new program, if you're a producer looking to market your goods to schools, always feel free to reach out to us at the Center for Rural Affairs, and we will include my contact as well as Sarah's in the chat for this Facebook Live. But yeah, thanks for joining us today, Sarah. This was great. And everyone, remember October's Farm to School month, and please reach out to us to be a part of the Crunch Off. All right, take care, everyone.